The film opens with bright and bustling scenes of a Korean fish market early in the morning, as the first rays of the sun begin to illuminate the stalls filled with fresh catch. Here, among the many loaders and vendors, we meet the main character, Dong-chul, a muscular man with a heavy gaze, and his loyal partner, Chun-sik. Both work at their new place of employment, engaged in unloading and delivering fish to the numerous market stalls. Dong-chul was once part of the criminal world, involved in dirty business and living by the laws of the street. But everything changed after marriage. The morning progresses as usual. Stalls gradually fill with various types of seafood. Dong-chul and Chun-sik work smoothly together. However, the peaceful atmosphere is disrupted at the end of the shift. When Director Kang visits the market, accompanied by two of his guards, they head straight to one of the tenants, a young merchant who has clearly delayed payment. The conversation quickly turns into harsh pressure. Director Kang and his men behave not like ordinary businessmen demanding fair payment, but rather like real mafia. When Kang and his men pass by them, both loaders bow respectfully, showing respect to the man who essentially holds their earnings in his hands. Dong-chul unexpectedly receives a phone call. Dong-chul, together with Chun-sik, goes to meet a certain successful entrepreneur named Lee and Director Park. Both businessmen look confident and prosperous, dressed in expensive suits and exuding an atmosphere of success. They offer Dong-chul and Chun-sik to get involved in a supposedly very profitable business. Enthusiastically, they explain that the deal is absolutely sure, and the return on investment is so high that it exceeds even casino winnings. After lengthy discussions about prospects and opportunities, they finally show the product. They take out a huge king crab from the refrigerator, a true giant among seafood that could cost a fortune. The entrepreneur explains that a whole shipment of such crabs is expected to arrive by ship from China directly to South Korea. Lee and Director Park solemnly promise to deliver these huge delicacy inhabitants of the deep for sale in the shortest possible time. The businessman literally promises mountains of gold, assuring that all the goods can easily be distributed across the market, thanks to the huge demand for such a rare product. This is truly huge money for a former gangster who now works as an ordinary loader for a modest salary. As a sign of good faith, and to finally convince them, the entrepreneur leaves the brought crab as a gift to Dong-chul. After careful examination of the sample and long deliberation, it begins to seem to Dong-chul that the deal is really a sure thing. Ultimately, he decides to take the risk and invests all 100 million won that he struggled to get as a bank loan. Meanwhile, Dong-chul's wife, a sweet and hardworking woman named Jisoo, tries her best to earn for the family and works 2 jobs at once, leaving herself practically no time to rest. It's obvious that a man with a rich and dark criminal past has finally found himself in quiet family life. Jisoo is sincerely happy and grateful to fate that her husband now leads a quiet and peaceful life. On the way home, Jisoo proposes a bold plan to her husband to take all the money they have saved and start a new life. Dong-chul doesn't say that he has already invested in a risky crab venture, only subtly hints that such a deal could be very lucrative. It turns out this is far from his first venture. Jisoo doesn't share her husband's desire to make quick money. Dong-chul lies that he wasn't planning to do anything like that. The scene changes, and we find ourselves in the modest apartment of a man named Kim. Suddenly the door is knocked down, and gangsters led by a cruel man named Kitai burst inside. They pounce on Kim, brutally beating him for non-payment of debt. At the most critical moment, Kim's daughter comes home. Kitai immediately notices the young, beautiful girl and freezes, captivated by her appearance. Instead of killing the debtor, Kitai decides to take the girl hostage to repay the debt. Kim remains at home with a knife wound in complete despair. On the way, Kitai's car with driver Do-sik accidentally crashes into Dong-chul's car with his wife. Dong-chul gets out and tries to explain to the driver that he is now forced to call the police. In the back seat, Kitai tries to hide the kidnapped girl from prying eyes. Seeing what's happening, Kitai himself gets out of the car and intervenes. He behaves politely, gives several compliments to Jisoo, and apologizes to the couple. Dong-chul says he will settle everything with insurance. He refuses the money. The couple quickly leaves the scene feeling strange awkwardness. The next day, Dong-chul comes to Director Kang for his owed wages, but receives less than expected. Despite his pleas, Kang brushes him off. A month passes. Dong-chul discusses the crab investment with Chun-sik. Their conversation is interrupted by a call. The ship with crabs is stuck in a Chinese port. Their investment has burned. Realizing they've been deceived, they worry about Jisoo's reaction. The situation is aggravated by problems with housing payment. In the evening, the couple meets in a restaurant for a festive dinner, Jisoo's birthday. But the evening goes glumly. Jisoo is ready for anything to get money, even proposing a fake divorce. However, Dong-chul categorically refuses. He informs her about the failure with the crabs. Learning the amount, 100 million won, Jisoo becomes furious and starts screaming. Dong-chul tries to calm her down and leaves to get the cake. When he returns, Jisoo has already left. On the way home, Jisoo rides in a taxi, still in emotional turmoil. She doesn't answer when Dong-chul calls, only sends a message expressing trust in him. Receiving her message, Dong-chul sighs with relief and heads home. However, Dong-chul's car is forced to stop on the road. Lim-gu, one of Kitai's men, intentionally delays him by transferring things. At this time, Jisoo is kidnapped at home by Kitai's people. Returning home, Dong-chul discovers complete chaos and cannot find his wife. In panic, he rushes to the police station. The next morning, he sits at the station, but the camera was turned off at the moment of the kidnapping. Only a blurred van remains on the recording. The police promise to investigate. The detective says he'll call when there's news. Leaving the station, Dong-chul receives a call from Kitai, who makes him listen to Jisoo's voice. Kitai says he left a business card on the refrigerator and invites him to a restaurant. When Dong-chul arrives, Kitai calls again and asks him to open the bag. The bag is full of money. Kitai says this is Jisoo's price and that she won't be coming home. It seems to Dong-chul that Kitai is getting into a car, and he rushes in pursuit but mistakes and catches the wrong person. Dong-chul brings the money to the police as evidence. Despite the investigation, the police treat Jisoo's case as an instance of human trafficking, not taking it seriously. 2 days have passed since the kidnapping without news. Dong-chul realizes the police's lack of interest. He learns that many other women have faced kidnappings, and none were found alive. He decides to take everything into his own hands. Dong-chul contacts Chun-sik to arrange a meeting with a private detective named Bear. Chun-sik reports that Bear demands a large sum that they cannot afford, as the money is with the police. In the evening, Dong-chul visits Director Kang and demands his owed wages. Kang refuses and insults Dong-chul. In response, the former mafioso scatters the director's entire entourage. Frightened, Kang pays all debts. Taking the money, Dong-chul and Chun-sik go to private investigator Bear. Bear considers the payment insufficient. Chun-sik promises Bear 5% of the profit from the crabs. Bear agrees and immediately finds the first clues. Studying video from cameras, Bear finds the license plate number of the person who left the bag with money. They track down the car owner and interrogate him. During interrogation, it's discovered that he sold the number to a bookie due to gambling addiction. They get the address of a place that trades license plate numbers. In the parking lot, they're invited inside the back rooms into an underground casino. A well-dressed madam comes out to them. The woman gives answers. Every 2 to 3 months, they transport numbers and drugs. She gives Dong-chul a business card of the kidnappers. In the evening, Dong-chul visits a nightclub using the outdated business card. The club has a new owner. Parking his car, he notices a van with a man and several women. The man turns out to be Lim-gu, the one who delayed Dong-chul earlier. He realizes the driver is connected to his wife. Dong-chul waits for the gangster's return and offers to talk. Dong-chul confronts Lim-gu, but he escapes. Later, Dong-chul receives a call from the police. They found a body. Fortunately, the deceased is not Jisoo. The next day, Bear studies the dead woman's case. It's discovered that she went missing 2 years ago and was in a coma before the kidnapping. Her husband once confessed to the police. The trio meets with the deceased woman's husband. He reveals that his wife was in a coma for 2 years and he took care of her. They participated in a TV show to raise funds. One day, Kitai offered him money in exchange for his comatose wife, calling her a living corpse. Despite remorse, the husband accepted the money. He gives Dong-chul the results of his investigation. Dong-chul finds in the folder a business card similar to the one he received from Kitai after the accident. Everything fits together. After the conversation, they hear a loud noise. The man committed suicide by falling from a building. Studying the information, Dong-chul recognizes Do-sik's business card, the driver from the accident. Dong-chul meets with Do-sik, but he doesn't recognize him. Dong-chul takes Do-sik to Bear's office for interrogation. Despite hours of torture, Do-sik refuses to speak. Soon, Kitai calls via video link and threatens to harm Jisoo if Dong-chul doesn't kill Do-sik. Fearing for his wife, Dong-chul strangles Do-sik until he loses consciousness. Kitai demands return of the money, promising to return Jisoo. It becomes clear that Dong-chul was pretending. He pinched Do-sik's artery. Then Dong-chul slaps Do-sik hard, and he regains consciousness. After the incident, Do-sik reveals the scheme. They are loan sharks who kidnap borrowers or relatives when debts aren't paid. Shockingly, they kidnap women based on appearance and sell them into prostitution abroad for big money. Kitai is a depraved man who believes money can buy everything. Do-sik claims he doesn't know the exact location of the hostages, only the province. Armed with information, Dong-chul and companions decide to retrieve the money from the police. Bear and Chun-sik pretend to be prosecutors from Seoul and request the bag for inspection. The officer agrees, but insists on notifying the detective. They're asked to show identification and wait for the investigator. The constable contacts the detective, who reveals the case wasn't reported to the prosecutor's office. Realizing the exposure, Dong-chul blows up the detective's car as a distraction. Using the maneuver, they escape. In the subsequent scene, Kitai and the gang hold kidnapped women captive. The place resembles a mix of hotel and psychiatric clinic. Soon, Kitai receives word from Dong-chul about successfully returning the money. He invites Dong-chul to the hideout for the exchange. But as soon as the call ends, Kitai orders his men to kill Dong-chul after getting the money. Later, Jisoo notices that the window was recently renovated. She attempts to escape with a new acquaintance. Together, they remove the cover and try to loosen the bars. Eventually, they manage to create an opening through which Jisoo escapes. The girl survives and runs into the forest. When Jisoo disappears, Kitai enters the room with a guard. The escapee reaches the road and urgently asks a passing driver for a ride to the police station. The car gets stuck in traffic near the station. Jisoo gets out and runs again. She almost reaches the entrance when Kitai's car blocks the way. The next day, Dong-chul and companions manage to reach the place where the women are held. The door is locked, but the former mafioso cannot be stopped. Dong-chul bursts into the building, knocking down anyone who tries to stop him. Through cameras, he finds the room with the girls and runs there. Simultaneously, Bear and Chun-sik free the kidnapped women. Dong-chul begins searching for his wife, convinced she escaped through the window. When he reaches the room where Jisoo was held, he sees the bent bars and quickly leaves, realizing his wife has escaped. On the way, Dong-chul encounters Kitai's car carrying Jisoo. Seeing him, Kitai orders the driver to speed up. A chase begins. Kitai and the driver try to escape. Kitai survives, but the driver passes out. The mafia boss tumbles onto the road and runs to Dong-chul's car with an axe. Kitai smashes the windshield, but Dong-chul has disappeared. Soon, Dong-chul confronts Kitai and physically attacks. He catches the mafia boss and beats him thoroughly. Kitai tries to manipulate, pretending to apologize and threatening suicide. Nevertheless, Dong-chul doesn't let Kitai's actions distract and continues beating. In the end, Kitai falls from the blows, but Dongchul can't stop. Only when the opponent loses the ability to speak does Dongchul go to the car where his wife lies unconscious. He quickly wakes her, and they embrace with relief. The girl doesn't immediately come to, but cries with happiness. When the police arrive, Kitai and the entire gang are arrested. Dongchul's heroic actions become headline news. The picture ends with a newscast where the anchor reports on suppressing the gang's activities involved in kidnapping girls. Meanwhile, the shipment of king crabs finally arrives in Korea. Fortunately, this turns out to be an incredibly profitable investment for Dongchul, as a result of which he becomes wealthy.